Hello everyone, my name is Damien Gomez, and today I will be introducing to you the history of how video games became a popular source of entertainment from a science experiment. Here is all you need to know about video games in around 9 minutes. Video games, by definition, are electronic games that involve a person interacting with an interface which would show visual feedback from the video device via television screen or computer. Back in the good old days, dating to the late 1950s, there was an event recorded on October 18, 1958, where a nuclear physicist named William Higginbottom created a complex analog computer to showcase a game called Tennis for Two, where two people, each wielding a separate controller, had to use diodes and buttons to swing an invisible racket on the simulated tennis court. The device was showcased at the Brookhaven National Laboratory during an event called Lab's Annual Visitors Day, and it received positive feedback from the public. The premise of the project was to send a message of how science could be used in modern society at the time. Although he gained major success from the invention, Tennis for Two was not the first video game, as ones in the late 1940s and the early 50s were somewhat similar to Higginbottom's device, but couldn't become an official video game as his. Williams' device was altered to create an image of a tennis court and the ball to have a moving animation which the players could control. These alterations did not happen in the earlier predecessors, but were still acknowledged. Williams' work would then spawn the spark of video gaming. In the early 60s, games would heavily revolve around war, like the Cold War, showing simulations of how America would defeat communistic countries. During the process of simulated warfare, a student named John Kemeny from Dartmouth would change the game by creating the first computer football game with his partner Keith Bellairs in BASIC in 1965. With the help of his own time-creating system and basic programming language he created in 1964. This event made many people, known as indie developers, create lots of games to the public. In 1966, a man named Ralph Baer had an idea of playing video games on TV. On September 1st, he drew down ideas of what would become the development of television video games, leading up to the development of the brown box, a video game prototype that would allow the consumer to play tennis and other games that came with it a year later. In 1968, Ralph would then license his television game, and Magnavox, an electronics company, would release a video game system kids could play at home called Odyssey, which was made based on Ralph's designs. Moving on to 1971, one of the classic old-school games, Oregon Trail, a simulation of pioneers' westward journey created by Minnesota college students Don Wotwich, Bill Heineman, and Paul Dillinger, would be distributed nationally to the Minnesota Educational Computer Consortium. This would be the time where games went from historical to fun and fantasy-like games. I'm not saying that the genre is being left behind, but it's taking a break for now because a legend in video game history would be made in 1972. In this year, two men named Nolan Bushnell and Al Alcorn of Atari, an arcade game company, would develop an arcade table tennis game. What is up with tennis anyway? Why was this game the most recognizable out of many that were already published? Well, that's because this game was known as, you guessed it, Pong. As they tested the game out in Andy Capp's Tavern in Sunnyvale, California, the machine stopped to work because it was jammed with too many quarters inside. Literally. This would make the game a huge success in the US and would be the beginning of great innovative games. Now that I have told you the beginning of how video games got invented, let me explain the massive changes of video games starting from 1974 to today's modern applications. In 1974, the improvement of technology would show us the perspective of a first-person shooter on the game Maze Wars, as you walk into numerous passages made from wireframe graphics. 1975, Atari will introduce Pong at home. Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, will have to sell his units at a Sears Roebuck sporting goods department by himself, as he did not find any partners in the toy business. 1976 would begin to spark up a new genre known as role-playing games, or RPGs, as Don Wood's version of the game Adventure, another pioneering application, would begin to be a text-based interaction as it is set in an imaginary world of caves filled with treasure. From 1977 to 79, the Atari 2600 video computer system will be the most innovative console at its time, holding up to 50 games featuring a joystick, interchangeable cartridges, games that showcased color, and switches for selecting a game and to change the level of difficulty. The arcade game Space Invaders also becomes another massive hit, making its destination to Japan. The funny thing is that they had a tight shortage of 100 yen coins, equivalent to 92 cents in change in the whole country. Within the year, millions of quarters would be spent due to its high popularity of fighting off aliens on around 60,000 machines. The handheld device known as the Intellivision would make its appearance in 1979, which had better graphics and controls than the Atari 2600 and would sell 3 million units on its release. In the 80s and 90s, technology had changed the way games were being made. transitioning to pixelated 2D platforms to 3-dimensional polygons. Many icons and fan-favorite games got the praise during these times, such as Pac-Man the Yellow Ball who eats ghosts for some reason, and the world's famous foreign fat plumber with impressive jumping skills, Mario. Pac-Man, debuted in 1980, became a smash hit on the Atari 2600. This yellow ball was made as inspiration by a missing slice of pizza created by Namco's Toru Iwatani. 2 years later, Ms. Pac-Man would take the role of the protagonist, showing gender equality and becoming the best-selling arcade game of all time. In '81, everyone went crazy to play Shigeru Miyamoto's favorite hero, Mario, in his first appearance in Nintendo's Donkey Kong, which back then he was known as Jumpman. Of course, he was a protagonist who would obviously try to save the princess from the egg, which would be replaced by a dragon turtle, and this would repeat for many years, and so on. I don't know how this makes sense, but goddamn does it sell, and it's pretty addicting. And then there were many games that took the world by storm in the 2 decades, such as Tron, Mule, Tetris, The Legend of Zelda, John Madden Football, Solitaire, Sonic, Duck Hunt, Cubert, Dig Dug, Dune 2, Mortal Kombat, Doom, Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, Lara Croft, GoldenEye 007, Crash Bandicoot, Earthbound, Half-Life, Banjo-Kazooie, and many more. So many creations that entertained the public had impacted everyone's living room for everyone to enjoy these products, but there was one that didn't satisfy the consumers at all. The name of the game was E.T. for the Atari 2600. The movie in '82 was an instant classic that made every kid enjoy, as well as adults, as it grossed $11 million in its '82 original release and stayed in top of the box office for 6 weeks. Unfortunately, the game received negative feedback as the game was just called the worst game ever to be made by many people and critics, saying that the story, gameplay, and visuals were not good at all, since the project was rushed 6 months after the movie's premiere. The game was so bad that it caused the video game industry crisis of 1983 as Atari lost its superior place in the market. They soon had to report a $536 million loss in '83 and made the company split and sold in '84. Not only did it ruin Atari financially, the company had thousands of unsold boxes, cartridges, and systems from Atari in stock, and an urban legend became popular when many skeptics believed that the products were buried at Alamogordo, New Mexico. This became a reality on April 26, 2014, when remains of the cartridges of ET, consoles, and merchandise from Atari were discovered on a burial site that Fuel Industries, an entertainment company, were to excavate the site for only 6 months. The game will always be remembered as the abomination to the video game industry forever. And that's about all the time we have about the topic of video games. I mean, what is it we have to talk about? In our decades, consoles became more advanced so they can run to a height of 60 frames per second, hold more storage space in their systems, and enhance more visuals of the game itself to make it seem that the environment and characters look as realistic as they could possibly be. Consoles introduced in our age, if you've been living under a rock, are the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii, Wii U, PlayStation 4, the DS's, and the Xbox One, with of course even more games like BioShock, Half-Life 2, TF2, Portal, Super Mario Galaxy, Guitar Hero 3, the good Call of Duty games, Mirror's Edge, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, Ratchet & Clank, Assassin's Creed, Gears of War, League of Legends, and more of the best was born. Controversy of games being the cause of violence started to rise as games like Grand Theft Auto began to be sold in the market, and in my opinion that makes no sense whatsoever. I started playing gory games when I was 8, and I haven't shot up to school because there are many horrible things out there in the world that cause violence, and games for one are not the problem, as they are just for entertainment purposes only and not to be acted in any way. Consoles of our generation were also bundled with motion controllers to simulate a more interactive feel towards the game itself. And let's not forget that indie developers are starting to get recognized in the gaming community for creating their own projects with the help of a small staff that work independently, such as the works of Five Nights at Freddy's and Terraria. The video game industry is growing in a rapid rate in today's society. There is no prediction on when video gaming might go dark. Until the next gaming crisis strikes, I'll still be playing Team Fortress 2 with Cheeto-crusted fingers while yelling at my monitor. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something in this video presentation.